And we're delighted to welcome you to Imola for round one. Then we go to Barcelona, Portimao, Mugello, Spa, Francorchamps in Belgium, Misano, and then the World Finals, the Finale Mondiale in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates to come at the beginning of November in this new, revised, condensed calendar. This is where we are in Italy then at Imola, this evocative track that means so much to anyone that is a fan of motor racing and indeed a fan of the prancing horse. We have the Ferrari Challenge Coppa shell cars making their way onto the grid now. They've had their qualifying earlier on today in weather conditions, despite the slightly dark cloud that I can see out of the window and that you can see on the screen. We are not expecting any rain at all. Imola. All the thrills of the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli Europe begin, finally. A circuit that has always been in the DNA of the prancing horse and its one-make championship. Car stories, driver stories, and this time the flavour is even more special. The starting light opens a new chapter in a long tradition, now featuring the Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo. With the enormous desire of everyone to get back on track, our voyage in time has landed us here. So this is where we start from. Ladies and gentlemen, simply and magically, all the excitement of Ferrari. And we will bring it to you in bucketfuls, rest assured. 4.9 kilometers, the Imola track, some 21 turns. 12 of them left-handers, 9 of them right-handers. Very much elevation changes throughout the track and the 3 sectors that you could see there on the track graphics. It's a, forgive the pun, very challenging track that the drivers love. Air temperature 31 degrees, track temperature 41 degrees. It is certainly warm, but here in our commentary booth we have the benefit of air conditioning. Thank you, Imola Circuit. So, beautiful backdrop, beautiful cars about to go racing. The 488 Challenge Evo makes its debut on track here at Imola.
My name is Matthias Mose, I'm German and I'm racing for Baron Motorsports since 2019. I live in Dieburg, which is a small town in Germany near Frankfurt. My great passion in life is racing, and my great dream was always to race in a Ferrari. Now I can race in the nicest Ferrari there is, in the 488 Challenge. I have 3 children and they all fortunately share my passion in racing, so we can go to the racetracks of this world together. My car racing career actually already started in 2006 when I did 1 season in Open GT with a Ferrari GT3 car. I only came back into racing in 2019 with my first season in the Ferrari Challenge. My best result was fortunately in my home race at Nürburgring, where I came 3rd, and I'm looking to improve on this quite a lot in 2020, and I hope the first step is going to be here in Imola. Finally, I'm back on track here in Imola, one of the most exciting racetracks in the world. Very special, very difficult. I've been here before 12 years ago, which is a long time. As everyone else, I had a very long break during winter. Fortunately, I came out of the break quite well, and now I'm focusing on making good lap times and learning the track very quickly.
Matthias Mose, who will be going from P5 in class because he is one of our Shell Am drivers. So there is the Thomas Gosner car down there on the grid, but we are hearing from our people down there on the grid. Obviously, we're up in that block that you can't see, that Thomas Gosner is actually leaving the grid and won't be taking his pole position. Now, at the moment, I know not the reason why. So that basically means that it benefits von Skeltermar, who was alongside him, and of course it will benefit Ernst Kirschmeier as well, because effectively he'll be going from P3 rather than P4, which is where he qualified. Moser, Matthias Moser, Ernst Kirschmeier driving for the Baron Motorsport concern, headed up by Philipp Baron. This is the Coppa Shell class of the Ferrari Challenge, which features both Shell drivers and AM drivers. The first 6 places on the grid were occupied by Shell drivers. And there is von Skeltermar then. He was going from P2 on the grid. He races for the Kessel Racing team. The team headed up by Ronnie Kessel, but team principal now is successful GT racer himself, Nicky Kadai, who looks after the concerns of Kessel Racing here. And as you can see, the Thomas Gosner car and all the tyre trolleys and everything have been taken away. So curious, because it looked like the Thomas Gosner car drove away. We'll try and find out more from our team down there as to why Thomas Gosner has not taken up his pole position. So the Coppa Shell class then of cars, the Shell and AM drivers, perhaps not as big as it could be, but that is, of course, primarily due to the pandemic that has affected all of us. Final congratulations and best wishes passed on to Roger Groels, then, the Race Art Kroijmans driver. And he's very much looking forward to this. He qualified P3. He now finds himself effectively P2. And he could have a good run on von Skeltermar going into the Variante Tamburello if he has his wits about him. So 30-minute race to come from the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell class of cars. And that is a gorgeous livery, the 102 car, driven by Claudio Schiavone, who's had a season or two away from the Ferrari Challenge, but one of the Iron Lynx drivers, and it's brilliant to see Claudio Schiavone back on track again. So 30-minute race to come for Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell, and the race start is just a few moments away. Rolling start, as always, in the Ferrari Challenge behind the Hublot safety car that you can see there. Here's the grid in full for you. Thomas Gosner disappeared off the grid. He should have been going from pole position alongside his von Skeltermar. P3 is Groels, then it's Kirschmeier going from P4 on the grid. Then we find Claudio Schiavone, and then it's Sardingen going from P6 on the grid. Mikhail Simonchek from P7. Alex Fox goes from P8 as we continue our look through the grid. Dusan Palkra and Laurent Demers are on the 5th row of the grid, P9 and P10, ahead of Corinna Gosner and Matthias Moser, who we heard from at the beginning of the programme. Then it's Miroslav Weibo and Boris Gideon on the 7th row of the grid. Willem van der Vorm goes from P15 and Walter Genter goes from P16 with Paolo Scudieri bringing up the rear on row 9, going from P17. That's the way the grid looks for this Coppa Shell race then. We have already had a Trofeo Pirelli race, and that was very exciting, and we're expecting much the same from Coppa Shell here. Of course, every driver very anxious to get their season underway and get racing back happening again, and that's precisely where we're at here at Imola. I have to say, here in Imola, congratulations to Ferrari, who are doing everything absolutely correctly in terms of making sure everyone is protected and looked after. And all the drivers down there on grid about to do what they do best, and that is drive these spectacular racing cars. The introduction of the Ferrari Challenge Evo this year. The car was launched, if you like, at the end of last year, but it's the first time in Europe that these cars have been raced in anger as the Hublot safety car, driven by one Mr. E. Prinot himself, a former hugely successful Ferrari Challenge driver, responsible for driving the safety car. As the cars are released now on their formation lap, we are getting ever closer to going racing, and it's at this point that I can introduce alongside me that something of a professional when it comes to analysing races, and perhaps he can give me a little bit more information on the Thomas Gosner situation. Welcome to Imola. Alongside me, Nicholas Spalek. Good afternoon.
Thank you, good afternoon, Dave. I'm sorry, I cannot in this instance. With no inside information. Apparently there is something technically wrong that was only discovered when going out onto the grid, so that's very unfortunate for Thomas. He would have been able to take advantage of the peculiarities of this circuit, where obviously no pits or no home straight exists, but there's a little kink, so everybody who's on the odd numbers on the grid, so 1, 3, 5, 7, etc., immediately gain the advantage of being on the inside of the turn. So look out for those drivers.
Thank you very much, Nico, who we will hear from periodically during the course of the races. Alongside me here with laptop, pens, pencils, and incidentally a cup of coffee as well. Okay, so Thomas Gostner then not making his pole position count because the car has been taken back into the pit lane. So that plays into the hands of von Skeltema and also Roger Groels, who are P2 and P3 respectively. Of course, become P1 and P2 by default almost. Mikhail Simonchik, Alex Fox, Dusan Palker are the best of the AM drivers. They go from P7, 8, 9 on the grid. So two separate classes running at the same time within the race. Von Skeltema, the Netherlands-based racer, because of the demise of Thomas Gostner, effectively inherits a pole position. One to watch out for is going to be potentially Ernst Kirschmeyer, who moves up a place from P4 to P3. He's always very lively right at the start of the race, and I would think that Groels will have his card marked by one Mr. E. Kirschmeyer right at the start of this race. So the cars all now under the control of the Hublot safety car, which is what we are on board with right now. Around the Ravazza turns, and will peel off into the pit lane. Then it will be the responsibility of von Skeltema to control the pace of the rolling lap. So the Hublot safety car escapes down the pit lane. The Coppa Shell race, the first of season 2020, is about to get underway. Ernst Kirschmeyer might be a danger man here. So as the cars approach the timing line, as Nico has said, it's the start-finish straight that isn't a straight because it has this kink in it. We await for the lights to go green. There is the timing line just beyond all the boxes, the grid boxes, around this second kink. And there is the lighting gantry. The lights go green on the side that the drivers can see. And von Skeltema and Groels, P1 and P2. Ernst Kirschmeyer actually side by side with Claudio Schiavone. Claudio Schiavone has to settle into that P4 place because Ernst Kirschmeyer is in that P3. So von Skeltema being chased by Roger Groels, then the Kraymans Automotive driver. And von Skeltema with his nose in front, the familiar shark's teeth across the Kessel racing car of von Skeltema is leading this race. Dusan Palker already making a move up the order. He's up into P3 in terms of the Coppa Shell AM drivers. Dusan Palker, who drives for the Scuderia Prague team, is another very, very lively customer indeed. And Dusan Palker, you certainly wouldn't bet against at any point in the race. So, opening lap of this 30-minute race from the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell drivers, and von Skeltema is not able to create much of a gap over Roger Groels at the moment. And Ernst Kirschmeyer doing the chasing as well. So too is Claudio Schiavone, who's got Alex Sartingen right on his tail. And then it's Mikhail Simonchik, Alex Fox and Dusan Palkra. So this undulating Imola circuit then as they head under the bridge now. And von Skeltema is under a bit of pressure here from Roger Groels. Roger is right on him as they go through first Ravazza 1. Here comes Ravazza 2. Now if Roger can pick up a bit of a toe off the back of the von Skeltema. Whoa! As Claudio Schiavone loses a bit of momentum. If Roger Groels can pick up a bit of a toe, but Schiavone under pressure from Sartingen here. Sartingen was able to take advantage of the fact that Claudio Schiavone dipped into the gravel. Groels not quite close enough to von Skeltema to be able to have a go. So the big battle is going on for this P4 position between Claudio Schiavone and the Sartingen car, the Axel Sartingen car. In fact, there's a three-way fight going on there, but Mikhail Simonchik, which is the last of the three cars, Mikhail Simonchik is in a different class altogether. The top three, look, P1, 2 and 3 is von Skeltema now comes under pressure. This dodgy place to try and overtake, and that's opened the door a little bit to Ernst Kirschmeyer. So P2 now for Roger Groels is perhaps under threat from Ernst Kirschmeyer. All of that is good news for Fons Skeltermar, because as you can see, he's managed to escape up the road a bit. Claudio Schiavone has calmed down and managed to keep ahead of Axel Sartingen and Mikael Simonchik, Alex Fox and Dusan Palkra, P6, 7 and 8 in the race overall, but P1, 2 and 3 in terms of the AM drivers, it's as we were. But it's a three-way fight for the lead of this race. Fons Skeltermar takes quite a bit of curbs, so too does Ernst Kirschmeyer. Altogether smoother through there was Roger Groels, and Roger is really close to Fons Skeltermar. So Fons under pressure from the Groels car, but at the moment Fons seems to be neat and tidy. So out of the Ravazza 2. So what will Groels do now? Fons then dives to the outside of the circuit. It's don't think Groels is close enough to be able to have a go under braking going into the Tamburello. No, sure enough, there's about a car length between the two of them through the Variante Tamburello before a quick blast of throttle before turns 5 and 6, the Variante Villeneuve, which is where we find Fons Skeltermar braking for now. They're both beginning to break away a little bit from Ernst Kirschmeyer, who's in P3, and in turn, he's breaking away a little bit from Claudio Schiavone and Axel Sartingen. So Fons the one under pressure here, and you can see just how hard Roger Groels from Kroijmans Automotive is pushing, because he's kicking up some dust from little bit of oversteer on the car. Now, the Evolution version of this Ferrari Challenge 488 car has brought various improvements, and not only improvements to the car, but Pirelli have also brought in an improved tyre as well. Here's a replay of the start then, and Fons Skeltermar just nailed it absolutely perfectly. Ernst Kirschmeyer was going to have a go, but because Ernst Kirschmeyer tried to have a go, that opened him up to a challenge from Claudio Schiavone as well. So seeing the start replay here from various different angles and from being on board with various different drivers as well. So back to the real race action then, as Fons Skeltermar continues to defend this P1 position. As Roger Groels now almost on his gearbox, isn't he? But it's notoriously difficult to try and put an overtake on at various parts of this Imola circuit. And one of the best places for an overtake is about where we are now, lining the car up perfectly to have a go. He now needs to dive to the inside, and that's precisely what he was going to do. But Fons made the car very wide, and that prevented Roger Groels from having a go on the inside going into this Variante Tamburello chicane. So good defensive driving from Fons Skeltermar, good attacking driving from Roger Groels, who was denied on this occasion. So, whilst all this is going on, I just wonder whether Ernst Kirschmeyer is playing a waiting game and he's going to let these two fight between themselves so that he can pick up the pieces. We will see. The fastest lap, incidentally, has come from Corinna Gosner with a 1:46.677, which is a full second quicker than these drivers right at the front of the pack. So well done, Corinna, who is currently running in P6 in class, P8 in the race overall. So Fons again under braking now, going downhill, and then we'll start climbing once again, as you can see through the right-hander here. We'll start climbing. This is where Roger Groels really has got a grunt in that 488 Challenge Evo car, and he's welded to the back of Fons Skeltermar. Takes a look at the inside here. This is not a traditional place for overtaking. If he makes this stick, that was brilliant. A brilliant overtake from Roger Groels. I really didn't see that coming, because that's not somewhere in Ferrari Challenge that we often see an overtake. He did it perfectly. And now Ernst Kirschmeyer goes through on Fons Skeltermar as well. Has Fons got a problem? He is seemingly dropping back a bit, and he'll be in the clutches of Claudio Schiavone in a moment. So from P1 to P3, as now Roger Groels goes through in the lead with 6/10 over Ernst Kirschmeyer, who's now P2, and Fons Skeltermar, who's under threat now for that P3 position from Claudio Schiavone, who has broken away significantly from Axel Sartingen. In terms of the AM drivers, it's Mikael Simonchik, Alex Fox and Dusan Palkra, ahead of Laurent Damouz, who is P4. So you can see Schiavone just lining up the shark's teeth of von Skeltermar. What a superb overtake from Roger Groels. We're on board here with von Skeltermar, and good driving from Fons as well. He didn't over-defend that. Roger just taking his chances there, carrying more speed. And, well, sliced through there on the entry to that Variante Alta, and that was a brilliant overtake. Move of the day so far. Oh, and this is Corinna Gosner. I was just extolling the virtues of Corinna Gosner with the fastest lap, and she's out of the race now, and we've got a safety car. So Corinna Gosner then, safety car is deployed. The Gosner's not having much luck in this race because Thomas Gosner, of course, out at the start, and Corinna Gosner now out as well. That means the safety car comes out, and Nico Spalek, I was getting so excited over the Roger Groels overtake, which I think was stunning, that I completely missed Corinna Gosner going off.
Yeah, we're not quite sure. We didn't see where it was. Obviously, it's somewhere in the area of the Rivazza, I believe, based on where she's showing us stopped on the track. And maybe that will tell us.
Yeah.
There was some impact.
Ooh.
That's coming up from Aqua Minerale to the Variante Alta, but there is quite a... I mean, it's good to see her...
She's fine. Yeah.
Fine, exactly. But that was quite an incident.
Yes, it was, and thankfully, Corinna Gosner looks absolutely fine. That's the most important thing. The integral safety of these 488 Challenge cars is very, very good. And that's pleasing to see that Corinna Gosner is absolutely fine. So Roger Groels then had done all the hard work through the Variante Alta and got ahead of von Skeltermar. Then Ernst Kirchmayr took his chances as well, and he got ahead of von Skeltermar too. So P1, 2 and 3 then, now held with Groels, Kirchmayr and Skeltermar. In terms of the AMs, it's Mikhail Simonchik, Alex Fox and Dusan Palkra. Laurent Demers will be thinking there might be an opportunity for him. He's P4 in class at the moment, but of course, behind the safety car, all the cars bunched up together. And it's almost like a race restart, isn't it? So this was the overtake once again. Super smooth, and Roger just had complete confidence in the car and knew that it was going to reward him for that really bold and ambitious move, which worked perfectly. And here, Ernst Kirchmayr spotted the gap. Von Skeltermar was about to turn in, then realized that the gap that he wanted to turn into was full of the Ernst Kirchmayr car. Racing room was left, and Ernst goes through to pick up P2 for Baron Motorsport. So Raceart Kroijmans from Baron Motorsport, from Kessel Racing, the top three teams that represent their drivers out on track, and the cars then all behind the safety car because of the Corinna Gosner incident. As I said, it's not been good news for the Gosners in this race. Thomas Gosner, who qualified in pole position, his car drove away from the starting grid and was not to be seen again. And now Corinna Gosner, who's had impact, and is out of the race, but thankfully she's perfectly okay. But it's probably a bit of work for the CDP MP racing team, Massimo Pepe, to get that car back in order, I would suggest, for tomorrow's qualifying session and race, because it looked to me, Nico, like the whole of the front of the car had gone. In the meantime, safety car with the lights off on the safety car. We're about to go racing once again. So as the race will resume, the clock has continued to count down, and Roger Groels anticipated the safety car coming in perfectly. He maintains his lead of the race from Ernst Kirchmayr and von Skeltermar. And von Skeltermar just a little bit closer to Ernst Kirchmayr now to try and wrestle back that P3 place potentially. Laurent Demers has lost out to Matthias Moser, who has occupied that P4 place. And there's Dusan Palkra, Alex Fox and Mikhail Simonchik, P3, 2 and 1 respectively, in terms of the AM class in this Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell race. Oh, just taking a look at the inside of the 139 car there. So the 488s roar uphill. And there the Laurent Demers car. Laurent Demers then chasing down Matthias Moser. Behind Laurent is Boris Gideon and Miroslav Weibo. And Claudio Schiavone is once again turning up the wick on von Skeltermar here in the 102 car. Claudio Schiavone, one to watch here. Potentially going to try and get by the Kessel Racing driver von Skeltermar. Von Skeltermar P3, Claudio Schiavone P4. Is it going to stay that way as Claudio now takes a look at the outside of von Skeltermar? And then we'll try and unsettle the Fon's car through the Ravazza turns. Now, Claudio Schiavone will try for a move, potentially, going into the Variante Tamburello. And lurking not far behind is Axel Sartingen. Here comes Claudio Schiavone, takes a look at the inside. Von Skeltermar makes the car as wide as he can to deny Schiavone the opportunity to get by on the inside. And for my money, it's a question of when, not if, the overtake is going to come. But Schiavone now has to go away from attacking to potentially defending from Axel Sartingen, who's in the red car right behind the yellow and black livery of Claudio Schiavone. In the meantime, Roger Grauls and Ernst Kirchmayr are able to escape up the road, and von Skeltermar defends this three-way fight for P3, which is going on. We're at about half distance of this Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell race. We're live from Imola. Delighted that you're there to enjoy the race action with us. So Skeltermar then led the race for the opening laps and then got overtaken by a masterful overtake from Roger Grauls, and then losing out to Ernst Kirchmayr as well. Fons finds himself in P3, being chased heavily by Claudio Schiavone from the Iron Lynx Nicky Hasler team. Here comes Claudio again, getting ever closer, welding himself to the back of the von Skeltermar car, putting Fons under enormous pressure here. So under the bridge they go, and this very fast section of the track going downhill, 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 carrying so much speed and so much reliance on the braking power going into these turns, trying to hold on to the car as there's so much momentum. Fons did a good job there, and Claudio Schiavone, whose partner Deborah Mayer, looks on, as you can see now. This fight for P3, but Fons is several car lengths ahead of Claudio Schiavone now, heading in towards the Variante Tamburello chicane. Schiavone not close enough now. So there you can see the gap between the two of them. Fons seemingly managing this P3 position at the moment pretty well, and whatever Schiavone does to try and unsettle von Skeltermar, he is being denied thus far. And as I have mentioned, that has allowed Grauls and Kirchmayr just to escape up the road, and they're each sort of pretty comfortable in their P1 and P2 positions. Grauls is certainly not under pressure. He's 1.7 seconds to the good over Kirchmayr at the moment. 13.5 minutes remaining in the race. In terms of the AMs, it's Similchik, Alex Fox and Dusan Palkra as it was, and there's about a second between each of those in P1, 2 and 3 in terms of the AM drivers, which is P6, 7 and 8 in terms of the race overall. Fastest lap in the AMs comes from Mikhail Simonchik. Fastest lap in the Shell drivers comes from Corinna Gosler, as Schiavone again tries to line up the von Skeltermar car. They're side by side. Well, Schiavone has to. Oh, he's going to lose it. The back end of the car goes round. Good avoidance by Sartingen and Skeltermar. Schiavone just trying perhaps a little bit too hard to get the best of von Skeltermar, and Michel Gatting looks on, and it wasn't going to happen. So here you can see, just carrying a little bit too much speed, was not going to be able to make the chicane. Fons was cool and calm. The car bottoms out, drags a load of dirt. At that point, all that dirt means that controlling the car from a grip perspective was very difficult. Fons takes evasive action. So too does Axel Sartingen. Initially, you could see that both Deborah and Michel thought he'd got the pass done, but then it all went horribly wrong. Well, fair play for having a go, and this is the 1-2-2 car of, that is Miroslav Weibo, and that looks like quite some impact there for Miroslav Weibo. So where that car is, this could call for another safety car. Oh, and that's it. Look, he's gone straight on there, but that's after the impact. And you can see that the track control arm is broken. He's not able to steer that car. So Miroslav Weibo is out, and sure enough, safety car is out once again. Oh, Nico Spalek, all of a sudden, everything is happening.
Yeah, well, not all the good things necessarily. Certainly, Schiavone will feel hard done by that incident. Not that it was anyone's fault, but just a little bit of overambition potentially, and we didn't quite see what happened there with the Weibo car that caused the wheel to point in that very awkward direction. But definitely a lot of incidents in a very short time. I mean, especially here in the Acqua Minerale, there is no part of the barrier which is very close to the track. So if there was an impact, and I'll have another look at this. That's how Corinna lost it earlier.
That's
Corinna. That's an awkward place because that's an awkward place, an awkward angle.
All because Corinna just dropped one wheel into the dirt there, wasn't it? You could see it just pitched the car sideways, Nico, and threw her head first into those barriers. But I'm sure you will agree with me that we've seen Corinna and that she's perfectly okay, that the integral safety that's built into these 488 Challenge cars means that an impact like that does not have the consequences that we always fear.
Yeah, no, absolutely. She looked fine. She looked upbeat after the incident, so there was nothing. And I mean, fortunately, coming out of that turn, the speed isn't that great. Now, you don't want to have that angle when you're doing 250 kilometers per hour, but definitely the car is built very solid, and also in the Evo version, that changes nothing about the safety that we have with those wonderful machines.
We got a shot there of Mikhail Simonchik, and we get it again, who's leading in terms of the AMS. Now, you have to feel for Mikhail, because twice now he's built up quite a lead over Alex Fox. The cars all being bunched up now means that that lead that he has is potentially under threat. We've got under 10 minutes of the race remaining. Same, of course, could be said for Roger Grols, who did a perfect overtake on von Skeltermar. And that was one of his earlier attempts at getting past von Skeltermar, which didn't work. But this one was sublime, absolutely sublime. And in fairness, that was exactly what Claudio Schiavone tried to do. But it didn't work quite as well for Claudio Schiavone. Ernst Kirchmeier going through. This was the Schiavone effort. And with the car bottoming me out like that, the tyres losing all their adhesion, and Claudio was something of a passenger at that point. But thankfully, everyone avoided the spinning like a top 102 car. And as you can see, initially they thought he'd done it here in the Iron Links garage. And then they realised that actually it hadn't all gone correctly. You've got to give it to him for having a go, Nico, but that wasn't the same execution as Roger Grols, was it?
No, and I mean, even when you miss the breaking point there, if you just had been a little more fortunate, you could have just continued. You could have made a point whether he would have to surrender the position, but to also spin it around, that was certainly unfortunate. And now he's down in P11. Obviously, the safety car helps him in that the gap to the leaders isn't quite there. You can see all the dirt there on the track. So the gap isn't great, but it's going to be very difficult in 7 minutes and change to overtake too many of the other cars.
You make a very fair point. He's got 6 AM cars in front of him that he's got to try and get past. He's P5 in class, but as Nico rightly points out, he's P11 in terms of race position in the race overall, which means he's got 6 AM cars ahead of him. That's going to be a big ask with 7.5 minutes remaining, and at the moment we don't know how long before the safety car is coming back in. Well, that will answer that because the safety car comes in now. So Roger Groels, Ernst Kirschmeyer, von Skeltermar, P1, 2 and 3 in terms of the Shell drivers. In terms of the AM drivers, it's Mikhail Simonchik, Alex Fox, Dusan Palkra, as we go racing once again in the Ferrari Challenge. Coppa Shell race. We have the greens, and we head towards the first of the chicanes. Following that safety car intervention for Miroslav Fajbo, who regrettably is out of the race now. Well, the leaders in each of the classes have done a very good job and have not fallen prey to pressure from the P2 drivers in each of those classes as well. So Groels, Kirschmeyer, Skeltermar, and you could just see at the back of the shot there, Claudio Schiavone trying to make up the places that he lost following his attempt at overtaking von Skeltermar to pick up that P3 place. So Mikhail Simonchik leading in terms of the AMs, Roger Groels leading in terms of the Shell drivers, and already opening up something of a gap. I mean, the Race Art Kroijmans team have really engineered a perfect car, which Roger has driven exceptionally well also, because already he's built up a gap of over a second between himself and Ernst Kirschmeyer, the Baron Motorsport driver. Top three overtakes from Boris Gideon, Dusan Palkra, and Matthias Moser, as you can see on screen. 3 overtakes for Boris Gideon, 2 for Dusan Palkra, and 2 for Matthias Moser. So the brake discs light up then as Roger Groels turns in, so too does Ernst Kirschmeyer and von Skeltermar. Von's getting a little bit closer to Ernst Kirschmeyer now, in my opinion. And there is the 196 car of Mikhail Simonchik, who is leading in terms of the AMs, the Baron driver. And Claudio Schiavone has formed a few cars ahead of him to try and get past. And the first one of those is Boris Gideon in his target sights. Groels extends his lead to 1.4 seconds over the P2 driver of Ernst Kirschmeyer. In all of this, Laurent Demers is running P5 in class, Matthias Moser P4 in class, and Dusan Palkra holds on to that P3 position, but Matthias Moser is having a go. So there you can see the 155 car of Laurent Demers, and there's the 103 car of Boris Gideon. The sound of these 408 Challenge Evo cars is magnificent. Matthias Moser then in 159, chasing down the Scuderia Prague driver of Dusan Palkra. Of course, with Laurent Demers chasing as well. Laurent Demers ahead of Boris Gideon now, and has found second wind in the second part of this race as Claudio Schiavone now has a go at Boris Gideon, but he's just denied. This is Dusan Palkra in the 117 car. Dusan Palkra in at the moment a confirmed podium place if he can keep it that way, but we know from what we heard from Matthias Moser earlier on, he's determined to have a podium if he possibly can. Well, to do that, he's got to get on terms with Dusan Palkra, and at the moment he's spending his time defending from Laurent Demers. So on board here from 4th gear to 5th gear with Dusan Palkra now up to 6th gear now. Brilliant onboard shot in the 408 Challenge Evo car. 6th gear, 7th gear now, heading up towards the Variante Tamburello now. Hard on the brakes, down through the gearbox, taking the in on 4th gear, and then back on the power again, up to the rev limiter, up into 5th gear. This is brilliant. Loved being on board there with Dusan Palkra. Von Skeltermar has now got Axel Sardingen beginning to bounce on his back bumper potentially. So von Skeltermar going to try and hold on to this P3 position. He wants to take at least a podium out of this opening race here at Imola. I remember speaking to Fons right at the very start of the lockdown that we all suffered, and he was missing racing so much. So Grolls, Kirchmeier, Skeltermar. Then it is Axel Sartingen who's doing the chasing on the 177 car. Just a handful of laps remain in this first Coppa Shell race of the weekend. Another one to come, of course, tomorrow. So, Lueg Sportivo engineering the Axel Sartingen car. Running downhill now, von Skeltermar holding onto the car beautifully, and Axel Sartingen under braking tries to close the gap a little bit more. By my reckoning, we're going to get another 2 laps in this race for the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell into the Kessel Racing Garage, the garage that engineers von Skeltermar. The relationship that Fons has had with Kessel Racing is a very long one. Kessel Racing, of course, hugely successful in not only the Ferrari Challenge but other racing categories as well. Autonomous team headed by the late Laurie Cassell, and then Ronnie Cassell takes over, and Nicky Kadai now very much the figurehead of the team at the track. So actually we're on the final lap now. I thought we might get one more in, but obviously Roger Grolls did not cross the timing line quite in time for us to get an additional lap. And there is Claudio Schiavone still fighting his way through the AM drivers. Regrettably, I think it's going to be, whatever happens, a P5 finish for Claudio Schiavone, but he was prepared to have a go. Here's Roger Grolls and Ernst Kirchmeier, then P1 and P2. And on this, the final lap, you can almost imagine Philip Barron, the team principal of Barron Motorsport, really egging Ernst on, saying, come on, this is yours for the taking. The gap between the two of them is just 6/10, but surely the charge and challenge from Ernst has come too late, or has it? Roger Grolls, all he's got to do is hold on to this for the final few turns that remain, and he will take first honours in Coppa Shell here at Imola in our 2020 season. What a debut in the Ferrari Challenge for Roger Grolls from Kramer's Automotive Race Art team. Here he is then, and just when you think the checkered flag is going to fall, it's a little bit further away than you think. He has done it. He succeeds. From Ernst Kirchmeier and von Skeltermar, P1, 2 and 3. Axel Sartingen has to settle for P4. Mikael Simonchik takes the win for the AM drivers ahead of Alex Fox, and it'll be Dusan Palkra that takes P3 as the rest of the cars cross the line and cross the checkered flag. And wow, Nico, a race punctuated by 2 safety cars, but lots of action.
Absolutely, lots of action, very interesting. Also, thanks to the safety cars, never any large gaps in there. Claudio Schiavone made it back quite a few positions, overtook 3 cars after that second safety car. Doesn't gain him anything in terms of position in class, but he's going to be one to look out for tomorrow, I'm sure of it.
I would agree with you there. So, Roger Grolls then is successful. Indeed, he wins the Coppa Shell race here at Imola ahead of Ernst Kirchmeier and von Skeltermar. So those are P1, 2 and 3. In terms of the AMs, it's Mikael Simonchik. You can just see the car in shot now. Let's zoom into that 196 car. Mikael Simonchik for Barron Motorsport wins in terms of Coppa Shell AM ahead of Alex Fox and Dusan Palkra, who takes P3. Nico's absolutely right. Claudio Schiavone had made it back up to P7 in the overall race order, which is P5 in class. So just a few more laps, he'd have probably made a few more places further up, but it wasn't to be, and all of that, of course, because of a overtake attempt on von Skeltermar, which didn't quite go to plan. Roger is a very happy man then. And this was Claudio Schiavone making his way back up the order. First of all, getting past the 159 car of Matthias Moser there. Also trying to take advantage of that, the 155 car of Laurent Demers. Dusan Palkra was next in his target sights and fell prey to the 102 car. So for the checkered flag, the run though, and Roger Groels was untroubled and takes the first Coppa Shell race victory here at Imola. The team were somewhat delighted. Confirmation of the top three in each class then. Coppa Shell, Roger Groels, Ernst Kirschmeyer, von Skeltermar, the 1, 2, 3 in terms of Shell. And in terms of Shell Am, it's Mikael Simonchik, Alex Fox, and Dusan Palkra. So they're the confirmation of the top three in each class of the Coppa Shell category. And a brilliant race from them. Of course, during the course of the race, we lost Miroslav Weibo, Corinna Gosner, and Thomas Gosner. It's not been a good day at the office for the Gosner family. Well done, Roger. Very, very happy. And immediately goes over to Ford. Congratulations to Ernst Kirschmeyer. I think Ernst was just preparing to have a go right at the end of the race, but the gap was probably too great. Nonetheless, good effort.
Super overtaking.
Love listening. And here's von Skeltermar, who will rue the lost chances. Of course, he led the start of the race, but it just wasn't there. But he still gets a podium out of it, a P3, and you never discount the Dutch driver. And this on board the Hublot safety car, which is an interesting shot of the pit lane. Here's Roger, once again, race winner. He's certainly very happy. Right, let's take a look at the highlights of that Coppa Shell race here at Imola. So as the drivers were preparing for the start, Thomas Gosner disappeared off the start. Played into the hands of von Skeltermar, who was able to lead the race until this remarkable overtake from Roger Groels, which relegated von Skeltermar to P2, and it wouldn't be many meters later that Ernst Kirschmeyer was prepared to have a go as well, and sure enough, he went through into P2, relegating von Skeltermar, unfortunately, down to that P3 position. Corinna Gosner just getting one wheel in the dirt, and that propelled her car into the barriers, but thankfully Corinna absolutely okay. Fabio Schiavone had a go at von Skeltermar, but unfortunately the overtake was not quite according to plan, and he ends up spinning around. Von Skeltermar and Axel Sartingen avoiding action to miss the pirouetting 102 car, but then the fight was on for him to make it back up the order after the second safety car incident. But in the end, Roger Groels would take the win for the Shell drivers, and Mikael Simonchik would take the win for the AMs. Von Skeltermar, we love you, man. Let's hear from Roger Groels then. What a race win for him.
First race in Ferrari, first race, and you are the winner of your first race. What do you feel in this moment in Imola circuit?
I never expected. I feel good, of course. I'm happy. First new car, first new track. Yeah, I take my position. I had luck. So after that I can go on, and it's fantastic, incredible. Thank you.
Full of emotion. Roger Groels then a winner for Racehard Kroijmans, and he is obviously delighted by that. Interesting to see how the season plays out. Here then, the official result, and first of all, let's look at our Shell drivers. Roger Groels takes the win from Ernst Kirschmeyer and von Skeltermar. Then it's Axel Sartingen. Claudio Schiavone takes P5 ahead of Paolo Scudieri. And of course, we lost Corinna Gosner and Thomas Gosner in that race. So we will be heading up to our socially distant podium in just a few moments to see the top three in both of Shell and AM classes. And hopefully we will have time to bring you both of the podiums, two separate podiums, of course, for each of the classes. I remind you that in the Drivers' Championship, Roger Groels is on 16 points following the first race. Ernst Kirchmayr on 13, von Skeltermaier on 11. Then it's Axel Sartingen, Claudio Schiavone, Paolo Scudieri, Corinna Gosner and Thomas Gosner both gaining a point for being on the grid. And the points order for this year, you score points from P1 down to P8, then you get a point for entry, point for a pole position, and another point can be gained for the fastest lap. Kroijmans, Ferrari, Hilversum, then very happy with the way that car and driver combination performed here at Imola today, and achieving a podium in the very first race of our somewhat condensed Ferrari Challenge calendar. There you can see the podium from our high shot here, and just to our right-hand side, I was going to wave, but you probably can't see me because the glass is darkened. Never mind. The thought was there, wasn't it? So we can hear Michele Mambelli down there about to bring the drivers out on the podium. Here's von Skeltermaier then, who takes P3 with his shark's teeth mask. P2 for Baron Motorsport, it's Ernst Kirchmayr. And P1, his race debut in the Ferrari Challenge, Roger Groels. And the national anthem will play out for Roger. Just saw a shot there of team principal of Baron Motorsport, Philip Baron. Of course, his driver is there on P2. I think that's Philip there. So trophies are held aloft. Well done to Roger Groels, Ernst Kirchmayr, and von Skeltermaier, P1, 2, and 3 in Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell. Fons never misses the opportunity for a photo. Well done, sir. Well done to all three of the drivers, and well done to all the drivers, in fairness. And here the race winner, Roger Groels, then for Racer Kroijmans in that number 188 car. Absolutely nailed it perfectly. He took his opportunity to overtake von Skeltermaier. I didn't think it was going to work, if I'm honest with you, but it did. It did a great job. We will be seeing the podium for this class next, the Coppa Shell AMS, where Michael Simonchik wins from Alex Fox and Dusan Palkra, ahead of Matthias Moser, Laurent Demers, Boris Gideon, Willem van der Worm, Werner Genter, and Miroslav Weibo, of course, we saw, unfortunately, not finishing the race. So we can hear Michele Mambelli then about to bring the drivers out for the AM podium, and we'll be seeing Michael Simonchik, Alex Fox, and Dusan Palkra will be the first of those to show as he heads to step 3 on the podium. For Scuderia Prague, for SF Grand Estate Mulhouse, P2 for Alex Fox. And for Baron Motorsport, it's Michael Simonchik. Great to see the Shell drivers like Ernst Kirschmeyer there to support all the other drivers up there on the podium as well. Great camaraderie in the Ferrari Challenge in these very, very difficult times. And the trophies are held aloft by Mikhail Simonchek, Alex Fox, and Dusan Palkram. Well done to all of our AM drivers and Shell drivers as well. So they're making their way off the podium now. So some super shots now. This is Mikhail Simonchik for Baron Motorsport then, taking the win in terms of Coppa Shell AM. It was Alex Fox P2 and Dusan Palkra P3. And here, in terms of Drivers' Championship, with regard to the AM drivers, it's Mikhail Simonchik, Alex Fox, Dusan Palkra ahead of Matthias Moser, Laurent Demers, Boris Gideon, Willem van der Worm, and Werner Genter. That's the way it looks. 18 points through to 2 points. Points, of course, absolutely critical as we make our way through the season. From here, we go off to Barcelona. Then it's Portimao, Mugello, Spa, Misano, and the World Finals to come in Abu Dhabi, the Yas Marina circuit, right at the beginning of November. But we still have another Coppa Shell race to come here this weekend in Imola, and that will be tomorrow, where we're expecting weather conditions to be similar to today. It's been glorious here since arrival on Friday. The weather has been lovely. Here are some great images for you to enjoy.